Hi guys, welcome back to the fourth and final episode of this series. I'm here today to see Omegapoint. I'm joined by Mathias Bergqvist, who's the Senior Web Developer and Team Manager, Robert Novo, who's a Senior Web Developer, and also Conrad Ljungstrom, who's also a Senior Web Developer here at Omegapoint. Welcome guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay guys, so to start things off, obviously you're three senior developers here at Omegapoint. Is there certain assignments that Omegapoint offer that potentially other consultancies can't help with?
Well, I think it's more about priority, really, giving us as employees dedicated time to actually spend on ourselves, as opposed to having to do it on our free time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, and obviously as a business, what does Omegapoint actually offer? So other than obviously the different assignments and things like that, is there certain things like perks within the company or anything that stands out as you as an employee?
What would you say, guys?
First of all, we do have a competence, we call it competence conference that we go to. We have one in Sweden and one in abroad, overseas, once, twice a year. And that's a really good opportunity for everyone to gather and we share presentations and stuff. So it's a good way to share knowledge and increase the competence level within the company. So that's one of the main perks of working here.
And I know obviously Omegapoint are in 5 different locations, obviously being Stockholm, Gothenburg, Malmo, Uppsala and Umeå. How many staff is Omegapoint currently sort of operating at the moment across the whole business?
Well, I think we're closing in on 250 to 300. It depends a little bit on how you calculate this. I think we're about 170-ish in Stockholm, something like that. So we're, I would say, medium-sized, right? Not one of those giants and not a small company either.
Yeah. And obviously you just mentioned about how many staff you've got. Is there sort of plans for expansion for Omegapoint? Are you going through a big growth phase at the moment? We
are trying to grow because we want to be able to give companies certain kinds of offers, which you can't at a smaller size. But that's the goal, growing.
And obviously with that in mind, so obviously when did Omegapoint officially begin? So when were they founded?
Oh.
Let's see. No, roughly 17 years ago, I think. We're closing in on our 20th anniversary. So in 2 years. So
here's what we know for a fact though. They started out in a garage with just 3 people, something like that, and have been expanding ever since. I mean, when I started out at this company, which is 4.5 years ago, something like that, we were 120 people in Stockholm, I think, and right now we're aiming at closing in on 200 at the end of the year, which is pretty amazing actually.
And cool. You just mentioned obviously you've been here for 4.5 years yourself, and being the team manager. Have you, obviously in that 4-year gap, when was the biggest growth phase that you saw at Omegapoint?
Probably last year, right?
Yeah. Recently.
Yeah. I mean, we're spending a lot of time doing student-related stuff, just getting our name out there. That goes for both the security developers out there in Stockholm, and also for university students and stuff like that. Getting your name out there at an early stage is so important.
Oh, good. And I know obviously speaking with Nicholas, who's obviously the HR manager here at Omegapoint, I know that as a business, which is something really cool that I don't know any other company that does, you're also 60% employee owned. Just actually tell me a bit more about that.
We are owned by our co-workers here, which means that we have a say and we get to know exactly what the board is planning to do with the company. And it feels like the growth plan is going to also help us ourselves, right? We are encouraged to invest and stay loyal that way, but it is also just for our own economic benefit to actually be invested in what you're doing every day, more than as just a job, right? Because this is like an extended family for a lot of people. It's not just about the work. You also have a lot of really nice people here that you want to stay friends with, even if you were to actually move away from Stockholm or why would you? But I mean,
So as you elaborate, obviously, with regards to what the board mentions, so does that mean that the 60% of the employees actually get a say-so in what happens within the company?
yeah, we do get an input on those things, but we have a few majority shareholders as well. So
Okay.
while our opinions are weighted into that,
Mhm.
we'd have to be very unanimous as smaller owners to make an impact. But that is definitely possible, and they do care what we think.
So does that also represent obviously the recruitment phase as well? So does that mean that you have an input as to who actually gets hired into the company as well?
Strategy-wise, I think we get an input. We're also part of the recruitment processes a lot of the
Mhm.
time, which means that we do interviews as well.
Mhm.
And so you have a direct way of shaping the future of the company that way. as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. Now, obviously, all three of you have been here for quite some time. Each of you, I'd like to know, obviously, what is the best thing that you find is the best thing about Omegapoint for yourselves? If you had to find a star quality about the company, what would be the best thing that you could say about Omegapoint for each of you?
For me, it's the culture and the people. You have such nice people here, and they're all willing to share what they know, and it's just a big happy tech family. It sounds so corny when you say it, but it is really just a good company with good people in it.
And also, like one of my main benefits of working at Omegapoint is the ability to change stuff. If you don't like anything, you can bring it up and have it changed. I mean, it can be like silly stuff, silly things like we play music, so we wanted like music instruments.
Hey, we just bought drums. Right?
Yeah.
Just the
that's
other week.
cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like this other, it could be like small things and large
Yeah.
things, but like it's up for grabs if you want to change anything.
Yeah, I mean competence-wise, like me and Robert, we just held a course for our junior developers in web development, like a 101 course. We made that ourselves just because we like realized a couple of years ago that hey, this is a knowledge area that is missing within the company for our junior developers, and we just had the idea, and like the feedback was just go do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I know you mentioned obviously with the instruments and things like that. So does that mean like if you request something, like you 9 times out of 10 get to actually get it granted within the company? Is it quite as you say, like free flow? So is it quite open, or is there certain things that will just get rejected?
I mean, short answer, yes.
Okay.
The threshold is quite low to get something.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the 3D printer, we don't know. But
We have it. It's
yeah,
operational.
we do, right?
Yeah. So if you wanna, so if you have an idea, if you want to do something, just go do it. Go speak to the CEO or someone high up who can give you the money, and they'll be very likely to do it because they are also big kids. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
So would you say that Omegapoint is a fun environment to be in?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what other than I know you mentioned obviously you got sort of music instruments and things. What other fun things do Omegapoint do that really makes you get up in the morning and go, oh, I can't wait to go to work?
Wow. Well, I'm going off skiing next week
Yeah.
with a lot of people from Omegapoint. I think 30 people sharing 3 cabins.
Oh wow.
Just
That's cool.
consultants.
Yeah.
So you can imagine it's going to be a lot of conversations about tech,
Yeah.
both in the slopes and like just in the evenings.
Mm.
Board games, saunas. Just there are a lot of activities to just jump on, and if there isn't the one that you would like to participate in, then you could probably set it up.
Oh, okay.
It's, nobody's going to tell you no, really. Well, they might, but you're going to have a hard time finding something.
I mean, obviously, this office, it feels like a second home, right?
Yeah.
You're home away from home. Look, we got a nice bar,
Yeah.
we got a pool table, we got our instruments and stuff like that. It's kind of, I mean, we're not building a cult,
Yeah.
because that's kind of dangerous, as I see it as well.
Mm.
But kind of, this is my living room at the office
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we do these open off the works kind of things when we invite all of our tech friends and people associated with the tech community within Stockholm and stuff like that. And those are always pretty fun, right? Super cool. And we try to. We have these OP Tech Talk.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as you may know, there is this meetup community within Stockholm, right?
Yeah.
That's going on, and we have pretty much our own thing, our OP Tech Talk things, in which like people from Omegapoint, they do their own talks. And it's pretty cool, and there's a huge variety in what's being presented. It could be web tech related stuff, it could be security related stuff, AWS and stuff like that. We always have different subjects, and it's pretty cool to see. I mean, people gathering at our office. Hey, step into our office.
Yeah.
Step into our living room or whatever. Have a drink on us. Listen to what we know. It's a pretty cool thing.
Oh, cool. And obviously that in mind, so I know you said that culture is a big thing with Omegapoint. So if you was to obviously get, I know obviously you all mentioned that you're part of the recruitment phase, and if you wanted to hire some new talent into the business, would you say that Omegapoint are more about people that have got good quality experience but may not have the cultural fit, or people that may not have as much experience but fits the Omegapoint culture perfectly? Which one would you think Omegapoint hire more of, or if any?
When we hire people, one quality we look for is basically like the ability to, the want to learn. Like we're all like in especially in web development, there's like a need to like stay in ahead of the pack, so to speak, and that's one quality we look for in new employees. Do they want to improve, and like what do they do to better themselves? I guess
Curiosity.
That's the
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have something you wanted to mention.
But obviously, we look for skill.
So technical ability is definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
Like many other people who are being hired by Omegapoint have some kind of degree, so they've proven themselves in some way before.
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, we're all birds really here. So you don't have to fit the cultural norms of. There are some companies that have very strict do this, don't do this.
Yeah.
Dress this way.
Yeah. We don't typically do that,
Right.
But we do look for that curiosity and willingness to explore. But at the same time, be mindful also that new technologies might not always be as stable, right? So you have to always weigh that in as well.
Yeah. And as mentioned, obviously, you are in the centre of Stockholm. So I know you've got 5 different branches, obviously in 5 different locations. Stockholm being obviously the main HQ, what is it for other developers outside of Stockholm that makes Stockholm so appealing?
Yeah, people say that Stockholm's just like an oversized small town. I don't know if you've heard that before, but it is. It feels like a small town that just grew too large.
Yeah, we hear it's a quiet London.
Yeah,
that's what and that's why I prefer that, because
Yeah.
it's not chaotic.
Yeah, it really is. And it's close to nature.
Yeah.
You got green areas everywhere. Almost any stop on the subway line, you can find a green area 200-300 meters away.
Yeah.
Can I break?
Yeah, I literally saw a reindeer on my way to work. I have to say this, just the other day. On my way to the subway.
Wasn't it a regular day?
No, it was a reindeer. I mean, to be honest though, it wasn't like a beautiful reindeer. It was kind of shaggy and stuff like that. Still though, it was a reindeer. So yeah, and I don't live that far from the city center. So
Yeah.
I mean, Stockholm is very close to nature.
Yeah.
If you brought your fishing rods, you could literally go down like to the docks. How far is that? Like half a kilometer or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Probably shouldn't do that though, because you probably need a license. But still though.
But there's a lot of nature.
There are. And I mean, for me, concert scene is great. I love that. You'll
Yeah,
find
I've
a great
heard
variety of like
Mm.
restaurants and bars and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or cafes or whatever.
Mm.
And I mean, there's always sports event going on
Yeah.
as well. That's pretty cool. But I would say like the main reason that people are moving to Stockholm is because it's a great career move.
Yeah.
I know it's a boring answer, but that's kind of the reality though.
No, it is, and obviously elaborating on what you've just mentioned, like Sweden is obviously the second biggest tech hub. Also, Stockholm is the second biggest tech hub in the world. Obviously, first being Silicon Valley in America, because obviously it's got companies like Apple. Now, the startup scene in Stockholm especially is huge, obviously across the world. Can you see the startup scene still escalating to the same scale in 2020?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, many startups fade away real quick as well.
Yeah.
But still, though, the excitement of being in that whole spirit of starting up something new must be really fun. I never worked for a startup though. But
Okay.
I know.
And does Omegapoint work with many startups on a consultancy level?
I know.
I think we do a few,
Yeah.
just because we like to support good initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
So we do the Hello World initiative for one. I don't know if that qualifies as a startup, but it is a project to help. I would encourage people to go online and look at it, but to help young people get to know coding and just get into the tech. Super useful.
Okay.
So proliferation of technology services is a good thing. Yeah. Anything else? We do,
I was gonna
we do
mention,
have a
like,
couple of other ones, but we don't know our entire catalog by heart.
Yeah.
Obviously,
No.
you'd have to speak with salespeople.
No, that's fair enough. And obviously, with Omegapoint as a business, I mean, if someone was to join the company, are you working on sort of large-scale assignments? Are they, if you was put out on an assignment tomorrow, is it just for short term and you move on to something different, or is it on an ongoing basis? Are they with big companies, small companies?
Depends entirely on your skills
Okay.
and what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to sit for a long time at the same company and really work on a product for a long time, probably make that happen. Some people just do, for example, penetration testing,
Yeah.
and those will typically be shorter assignments. So really, depending on what you do, I don't think we have one category that is more popular than another. Yeah.
And obviously, with all three of you being in the consultancy market now, what is it that stands out as being a consultant and working for a consultancy than, say, working directly for that product business? So rather than saying to the end client, you're actually in the consultancy market.
I mean, I see it this way, like as a consultant, we're in the product business, but one of the main draws that drew me into consultancy was the ability to be able to change in between product businesses, to see new technology stacks and basically different products, which I've had experience with now. Like I've been to probably like 5 different assignments over my like 6-year time here. So yeah, I've definitely reaped the benefits of working as a consultant. Is that right? Yeah.
Right, and it's also really good to meet new people.
Yeah.
A good way to just get to know both, like Robert said, different tech stacks, but also the people. It's also one of the sadder things about working as a consultant. You have to say goodbye at some point.
Yeah.
But hopefully the friendships that you make, you keep. And if you ever need someone in the future who would be good for a position in a future company, right? You could be like, hey, I worked with this guy a while back. I was really good at this. So you build your network as well.
And with obviously the different assignments as mentioned, across 2020, there's a diverse different industries that's out there that you can choose from. What can you see are the hottest trends within what industries do you feel like people are going to want to work within across this next 12 months?
For Stockholm, fintech is probably gonna keep being the big one.
Yeah.
I think, just because of the amazing startups and companies that are in Stockholm within fintech. But also gaming, is always gonna go strong.
Yeah.
Like you got King and Young and a bunch of other smaller studios here. So those are the big ones, I think.
Right.
I mean, on the subject of like fintech,
Yeah.
I mean, fun fact, we got like updated bills, like I don't know, 5 years ago, and I've yet to hold one in my physically in my hand, because we're like, I don't want to throw numbers out there, but like a large majority of Swedish people use like their cell phones to make payments, and
Yeah.
we're very cash free. We're a very cash free country, so
Yeah.
maybe that's the reason why fintech has been such a growth
Yeah.
in Sweden particularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to elaborate on anything?
Can you give me the original question? Because the answer was super long. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It was just basically, what industries do you see across 2020 that obviously is going to be like the hottest trends that people are going to want to work with in?
Right. Even within the tech community, I mean, good causes has been spreading. You can pretty much see the Greta Thunberg effect everywhere, right? That's the thing. So meaningful project. We talked about just yesterday coding for the environment. I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but you actually see projects like that now.
Okay.
I mean, coding for good causes. Might it be like the environment is one thing, but also within the medical industry and stuff like that. I mean, technology is so integrated in like our everyday life now that you'll find it everywhere.
Okay. Now, obviously moving on to the actual tech world. I'm obviously a front-end recruiter for the Swedish market at Darwin. Now, across obviously the last 12 months, I've seen a lot of change. And for me, obviously you've got Angular, you've got React, you've got Vue as obviously the three frameworks that a lot of developers use on the front-end side. In the last 12 months, I've seen React pretty much explode over the last 12 months, and pretty much everywhere, everyone's using it. What do you think this is still going to be the same in the next 12 months? And is React still going to be still the hottest framework for JavaScript?
Short answer would be yes, obviously. I mean, if you have a look at, do you know State of JavaScript? That poll that gets sent out every year. So it's like a poll that they send out to like web developer each year. And I mean, the statistics speak for itself. What kind of was a race between Angular and React, like let's say 5 years ago or something like that, it isn't really a race anymore.
Okay.
And obviously you have these up and comers like Vue and Svelte.
Yeah.
And they're getting industry buzz, which is super cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it comes to, if you want your system to be reliable, I would go React.
Okay.
And obviously it's ever evolving. I mean, we've had React hooks for a while now, and that's pretty cool because that completely made us take another approach to how we write React components and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, like, we're getting React Suspense pretty soon. I mean, we already have React Suspense in experimental stages, right?
Yeah.
I think it came in 16.6 or something like that.
Okay.
But we're still lacking SSR support, server-side rendering. But once that is up and stable, I mean, that will be pretty cool though. Because that will change our approach to creating React applications. Definitely.
And just to elaborate on something you mentioned, I've heard a lot today about Svelte. So I know obviously this is like an up-and-coming JavaScript framework. Can you see this sort of getting as big as React, or even sort of surpassing React at all?
I can answer that.
Like, I think it all comes down to adoption. Like, basically React is the go-to framework of today. But like when I started working here, React was like a like an unknown. Like, it was cool and all, but companies were already invested in like AngularJS. So that's, even though I wanted to learn and work with React, I was stuck with AngularJS because that was the framework that the product was being invested in.
Yeah.
And I think that trend continues now. Now React is the king on the block.
Yeah.
Whereas Svelte is like the
Up and coming.
maybe the cooler kid, but like I don't know, it might be hard to sell. It's.
And obviously, you just mentioned about obviously the other framework. So you obviously did mention about AngularJS. There are certain companies that still work with Angular. I know that this time last year, I had a lot more businesses asking for help with Angular, and obviously now they've sort of transitioned into React. There are certain companies that still do utilize the Angular framework. Why do you think this is?
First of all, Angular is great because it gathers the whole development team to like a common like API. There's a common practice there, so it's easy to get into AngularJS, for example. That's maybe I should take that again. I don't know.
You can do it again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, you can do that again. It's fine.
So the question was.
So basically, obviously, there's a lot of companies still in Stockholm that utilize the Angular framework compared to transitioning into React or even Vue. Why do you think people still want to use Angular and not transition into React yet?
I think a lot of it boils down to there will be like a learning curve, and learning curves cost, and basically AngularJS is a complete framework, and you can stick to a certain convention, and everyone can learn that convention really quickly. I think that's why AngularJS projects can still be alive today.
And do you think Angular will always be there, or do you think eventually it will die out?
Hopefully.
Look at the trends.
I'm very invested in React at the moment.
Yeah.
And personally, I would like to see React keeping its position in the top.
Yeah.
And hence I'm not very concerned about Angular sticking around.
Yeah. And obviously mentioned about the other one being Vue.js. There is quite a few candidates coming through that are only asking for Vue assignments or Vue positions. I mean, obviously Vue is obviously in React Shadow at the moment, and for the next 12 months it still will be. Do you think it will ever surpass React, or do you think it will always remain in the shadows of React?
That's a tough question. I don't think so.
No. Well, it depends a little bit. I think you have React, which is backed by a big company like Facebook.
Yeah.
They're going to continue developing React and fixing all the little things that are not working today. And I think for a lot of people, it will come down to maturity of technology and the community around it, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a huge backer behind you, it's going to have a hard time competing with React over the long term.
Okay. And I know obviously all three of you are senior developers. So I know obviously you've all been doing this for quite some time now. So could you each tell me on why it was that you decided to become a front-end developer, and obviously what it was that stood out to yourselves? Because I know that you've all seen transitions over the years with Angular turning to React and maintaining React. But what was it that first got you interested in being a front-end developer?
Well, I for myself, I have a graphical vein, you might say. I like UIs generally. I like UIs that perform well under all circumstances, and actually finding out what makes people tick.
Yeah.
And what makes a UI work well for people. And I think you have to like people to work in front end, because the users they're not the enemy, although you might sometimes feel like it.
Yeah.
They are the people you are trying to serve.
Can I answer that?
Yes,
as well?
yeah.
Cool. For me, it's pretty much all about the variety of challenges you get on a daily basis when you work as a web developer. I mean, I have to be able to talk about like UIs with our UX team and UI challenges, and I have to be able to talk about search engine optimization and performance issues, but I also have to have that deep knowledge of like APIs and security and all of that. I mean, you're faced with so many different challenges on a daily basis when you're working as a web developer. I mean, it's not just about front end anymore, right? You're building these intelligent web clients. And that's a huge difference between being like a web designer or something like that. It's it's really fun. It's really fun and challenging on so many levels. And it's, I mean, we have talked a lot about like front-end framework so far. But if you look at modern web, it's so much more than just front-end frameworks. I mean, a huge part of it right now is different services that offer you these opportunities to make life easier for you, basically. I mean, services like Gatsby or Next.js that try to solve these different challenges for you, like server-side rendering and performance issues and stuff like that. And for me, it's really interesting to see where we're at in 5 years or something like that. Do we have a king of the hill when it comes to like performance and server-side rendering solutions? I don't know, but there are these actors out there that really try. It's super interesting.
All right. We're still on the subject of...
Same subject. Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see. Right. Let's see. Yeah, my interest in web development sprung out of my interest in 3D and visualization. And thanks to technologies like 3JS, which was... it would... Okay, I'll start over.
Yeah, start again. Fine. No worries.
Do
you want me to restate the question?
Yeah, that's better.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
So basically,
what got me into web development? Right?
Yeah, that was something like that.
That's it. So basically, what was it that actually got you to become a front-end developer?
Yeah, thanks to the nature of the education I chose, there was a lot of courses that touched upon 3D and visualization. And I did my master thesis in 3D, and there is a library called 3JS, which made it very easy to implement this stuff on the web. So, and obviously on the web we use JavaScript, and therefore, that's kind of where my journey started. And I haven't looked back ever since. So.
Okay. And just obviously on that subject, obviously where you've all three of you been in development for so many years, have you ever come across certain situations that have been difficult but have made you a better developer? And obviously, what was it, and how did you become a developer from it?
Have a good example.
I don't know.
It's kind of like every day, right?
Or anything in your general day that obviously you've had to overcome, which has actually made you become a better developer from that? And has it been because of your own sort of initiative, or is it because of just the way you work with Omegapoint? Is it because of Omegapoint?
I don't know. Maybe it's hard to answer that because every day is like a baby step towards becoming a better developer. So it's like hard to pinpoint certain moments in my career where I've felt like, oh, this is a huge step towards being a really good developer. Maybe you have it.
Yeah, I would say that every day that you get to go to work and work with people who are better than you in some way is a day that you're probably going to have one of those little aha moments where you learn something or something just falls into place. That, okay, I'm going to stop doing it that way. Let me try this new way. And after a few years of that, you do get that gradual improvement that you're looking for. So it takes experience, it takes time to gain that experience that you need. And what does it even mean to be a better developer? To me, being a better communicator is a big part of that. You have to know how to talk to your colleagues, and you have to know how to talk to people with varying personality traits, because not everyone who is in tech is going to be an extrovert who likes to share everything. or who is easy to work with, that doesn't mean that they're not brilliant.
Okay.
And so to try to, if you want to increase your own rate of accumulation of knowledge, you should probably learn to talk to people who are very different from yourself.
Oh, good. Okay.
Good. Yeah. So I heard it saying once that the biggest difference between a senior developer and a junior developer is that the senior developer has failed more times than the junior developer has even tried. And I think it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
That one kind of speaks for itself.
Well, you've only got to
Yeah.
look at certain CEOs in the world, like the biggest
Yeah.
CEOs. Like, look how many times they've failed. Like, when they've took their product, tried to get investment, it's
Yeah.
failed numerous times. Like J.K. Rowling, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, she failed so many times, but if she ended up not giving that last chance, she would never become the billionaire she is today. And there's so many other CEOs like Richard Branson and people like that that are in the same boat. But it's like you said, failure only makes you better. If you took failure as a negative, you would never become more successful. And I think that's such a powerful message. And I think you're absolutely correct.
Do you know about like the Finnish mobile app development studio Rovio? They make Angry Birds.
Yes.
Like they made like 20 games or something like that before releasing Angry Birds, and all of those failed. It wasn't because of the concept of the game, because I mean the game mechanics were pretty much the same, maybe not the same. Rovio, don't kill me, but like the concept of Angry Birds weren't really a new concept at all.
Yeah.
But it was all about how they marketed it. It was all about that red bird in the logo, right? And it was all about the name of the app. So dare to fail. Right?
Yeah.
And just a quick one to cut this back. What was the framework that we mentioned earlier? It began with an S.
The Svelte
Svelte.
one.
Svelte, that was it.
Yeah.
It's been wrecking my brain because there's something else I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving back to something that we were speaking about earlier. So obviously with the latest frameworks and obviously Svelte being popular, there was also something else that's been coming through the woodwork that I've heard about, which is Dino. Have you heard much about Dino?
Nope.
Nope.
Basically, the way I see Dino is like the creator of Dino is the creator of Node.
Node.js, that's correct.
Node.js,
Yes.
so
yeah.
like in a sense, maybe this is his second chance of like a better approach to Node, because he addressed a lot of pain points in Node.js which he wants to get rid of in Deno. So like I'm curious about it, and I can't wait to try it out.
Because this is what I've heard is basically, as you just mentioned, with Node.js, obviously it's a powerful tool that obviously implements both the front end and back end together. But there is obviously a few areas that obviously he's seen, and I think what he wants to do is Dino obviously make it pretty much a perfect sort of front end back end tool with no errors.
Yeah.
Do you think that will be the case, or do you think it will still have its own sort of errors and it will still need fixing again?
Ooh. Like the first thing that pops into my mind is that, I mean, it kind of feels, if you look at like the race between like Angular and React, like my perception, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Should I? Yeah.
It's up to
Okay,
you.
let's
You
do
can
it
start
again.
again
Okay.
if you want.
The question was regarding like mistake.
Yeah, so if you
Is
with
Deno
the view,
foolproof?
yes,
Foolproof.
pretty much, yes.
So, like, I think it's hard to develop new stuff and be wary of where it is in like 5 years time.
Yeah.
Like if you look at React versus Angular, you see influences ping-ponging like back and forth between releases. Like you see React taking the best parts of Angular and creating their own. And now with like Angular, the new Angular, you see influences from React, and like it all comes. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. So obviously
sorry.
No, that's fine.
Like to tie it into Deno, maybe like as of today, he sees what's wrong with Node.js, but I'm sure someone will see things that are wrong with Deno.
Yeah.
and that's how I want it to be. I don't wanna. That's why I'm still into web development, because it's not a plateau in terms of progression. That's what I love.
So basically, you don't want to be working on something that's pretty much foolproof. You want something that's got mistakes that you can actually work on and basically see faults in it that could basically be made better.
No.
No.
So it's not necessarily that you want the mistakes.
Yeah.
It's that in each iteration we learn something.
Okay.
You have to think about it in the sense that we came from no JavaScript at all in the browser
Yep.
to some JavaScript, and then to jQuery, and then on, right? We don't see very much jQuery anymore, but we've learned things from it
Yeah.
in the process. So within each iteration, something gets changed a little bit, and we detect a new flaw, and then we have to adjust for that in the next go around. So hopefully it'll be better.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be perfect, as long as it performs a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least if it's trying something new, then perhaps that's a new venue we can
Yeah.
put down.
Okay.
So you got these architectural decisions that they make when they make these huge frameworks, and perhaps the flaws aren't showing until you're actually running 10,000 nodes of these things, and then you find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, just to capitalise on the whole podcast, basically, all three of you have been obviously with Omegapoint for a while now. So could each of you just give your star point about Omegapoint, and obviously why it's such a good company to be here, and why people should obviously actually feel like they should actually want to join them as a business?
Curiosity of the people who work here, and the fact that we allow people to be different. So if you have a dream to become an expert within a specific field, you don't have to be an expert when you enter. This is a learning experience for all of us here. And as long as you're open about the fact that you may not know everything, but you want to know.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the best thing about it. Humility and the people.
Yeah, maybe I'll continue on the subject of curiosity and stuff. One of my biggest draws is the competence culture. We actually have a program running later this year in which 3 people are getting paid to spend like 10% of their working hours just to improve a certain area, which is kind of cool, I think. So, yeah, the competence culture, I think, is one of my biggest pluses of working here.
For me, it's the people, definitely, and this great mix of like tech wizards and cultural warriors. Sorry, let me take that again.
No, that's fine. Yeah, go on.
From-
No, that's fine.
For me, it's honestly about the people that works here and the great mix between these tech wizards and the culture warriors at this place. It's really cool, and about the knowledge sharing, obviously, because that's if it's something that I 100% believe in, it is sharing your knowledge for your colleagues, and I mean, it's a great fit. It's a great feeling to do that. And I can honestly say that that is something that I do each and every day. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, that's it, guys. So that was Mathias Bergqvist, Robert Novo, and Conrad Ljungstrom. Thank you for your time, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
So that's
Thanks
it.
for having us.
You're more than welcome, guys. So that's it. So that's the 4th and final episode for this first series of this consultancy podcast. Stay tuned, keep a watch out, and look out for this upcoming episode.